Okay, so I'm gonna try to record the rest of this instead of streaming and then upload it later. Okay, so right now we made this button. Where's the button? Oh, we made this debug button. Now we're gonna make it do something. So on click, I'm gonna create this debug UI basically. Although I would also need to remove the button itself, so I'll say remove child button. Maybe is remove child a thing? We will find out. So if you click on here, okay, there's our debug mode going. Now, we would probably also want to be able to switch off debug mode as well. So let's make a little maybe X button here. You click on the X button, then it removes this debug UI. I'm gonna have a close button. Okay, there's a close button. Text content. Should it just be X, or is there a better symbol for that? Close symbol. Okay, I will grab that one. It's a slightly nicer looking cross than X. Okay. So that's the close button, and I guess we probably need a destroy debug UI function at this point. And also, well, let's place the close button first. Append the prev button. I guess maybe the close button. There's a progress label, and then the next button, and then a BR. Okay, I see. I think what I probably want to do is maybe absolute position the close button. Yeah, let me try that. I'll still put it here. I will append to the UI, append child close button. Let me put it on first. I'll play with it in the Chrome. Okay, click here. Where's the close button? There it is, but I'm gonna try to position it all the way to the right using absolute positioning. Okay, so let's see, position absolute right 5 pixels. There it is. Yeah, there's my close button. Okay, so I'll do position absolute and right 5 pixels. Just test that really quick. Debug, and there's my button. Okay, now I click on it. I need to be able to clean up the debugger UI. And at the moment, I don't really have code to do that. Might want to remove the event listeners, although maybe that's not a big deal. Perhaps all I really need to do is that let's undo that. Let me try it. Assuming that all the garbage collection happens correctly. I don't know if that's a good assumption or not, or how I can verify that. But I'm gonna basically remove the UI. But then after I remove the UI, I'll create the debugger button again. So let's see if that works. So I can turn on debug mode, turn off debug mode, turn on debug mode again, turn off debug mode again, and so forth. Beautiful. Okay. And this can walk backwards in time. Oh, one thing is, if you turn off debug mode, you probably want to set it back to the end of the history, like make the program go back to the current point in time, instead of having it be dangling in the middle of the history. So that's something that we should do. Is there something else that we should do? Another thing we should do. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so how do we get to move it back to the end of time, or to the current entry in the history list? So let's look at another thing to do is to sync the range. The range is not being synchronized. We'll deal with that later. Let's do this first. Okay. The way when the let's look at how the debugger shifts back and forth in history. That's the next button and the previous button. Okay, it increases or decreases the history cursor, and then calls sync all, and that's it. Sync all does a whole bunch of stuff. If you click on the timeline, you use the scrubber to scrub back and forth in the timeline, then it'll fire this change event, which will also change the history cursor and sync all. So I want to drill into sync all to see what all of it does. I think the key thing is this sync program state part. That's important because it updates the program state correctly so the program can behave. The other stuff just has to do with, and the sync vdom to dom, that's important too. This stuff just has to do with updating the display of the debugger, which aren't important when we're planning on closing it anyway. But I think these two, the sync program state and the sync vdom to dom, are the ones that we need. So I'm gonna grab those. And I'm not even gonna bother looking into those functions to figure out what they do. I'm just gonna try it and see if it works. I guess if it worked out, sync vdom to DOM will take the virtual DOM at the new program state, which was updated by sync program state. Take that virtual DOM and sync it to the real DOM, so it looks like what it's supposed to look like at that point in time. But before we do that, we need to set the history cursor to be the last entry of the history array, which is history.length -1. So I think that's what it needs to do. Let's try it. I need to compile it again because I've been editing the runtime file. Okay, so I'm gonna debug, I'm gonna walk backwards, and then I'm gonna close it, and it goes back to the state, the current state, where it actually had some to-do items in it. Maybe make a little bug logo here, hand draw a bug logo to go on top of this debug label. That'd be cool. But okay, so we have the ability to switch on and off the debugging state. You know what? I'm actually kind of thinking maybe we should visually indicate to the user that we did go back to the last entry. So if we were to do that, then we would do this: sync all, then maybe half a second later set. We can even use a sync await here because I love it so much. Await sleep. Where's my sleep function when we need it? And then we do this stuff. Let me I have a simple sleep module on my GitHub. Simple sleep. Can't even find my own module. Simple sleep. Yeah. Okay. It's in TypeScript, but that's okay. I'll remove the TypeScript bits. Okay. I'll put this sleep function here. Get rid of the TypeScript bits. And that should be good for the async await thing. I'm gonna, sleep for how long? How about 500 milliseconds? Just enough for the human to see the change. Let's see if that works. So, okay. I'm gonna say step backwards in time, close. Oh, did you see that? Yeah, it kind of, this bubble went to the end and then closed. Okay. Yeah, let's go with that, at least for now. So we're able to open the debug mode and close the debug mode. Now what we need to do is say when we're in debug mode, like this. I actually don't want the UI events to have any effect at all. So stuff like this, we don't want that to be able to happen when we're in debug mode like this. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new variable. Debug is false. So if debug mode is false, or if debug mode is true, first of all, let's set the debug variable. So if we create the debug UI, if we manage to do that, then we're gonna set debug mode to true. but if we close the button, then we're gonna set debug mode to false. So let's just test that much. So right now debug mode is false. Put it into debug mode. Debug mode is true now. Close it. And debug mode is false again. Okay, great. Now that we have that, we should be able to use this info, this flag, in the, I think in the listen to function, where we register for listener event. So I think what I'm gonna do is just not call the listener when we're in debug mode, so that event handlers have no way of executing. Okay. So I'm gonna say if we're in debug mode. I'm trying. Not even gonna look up this map. I'm gonna short circuit this. So let's see. So in debug mode, all of the DOM events have no effect. So blah blah blah. Oh, I probably want to prevent default also, so that the key press events don't come up. Or you could have returned false actually. False is a slightly slicker way to do it, although I'm not sure it's actually not as self-documenting, so I'm actually not gonna do the return false. Okay, the prevent default is more self-documenting, I think. Okay, so at this point we can type in stuff into it, but if we're in debug mode, you can't actually type into it. Another strategy is we could put like this big old div that blocks the whole screen. That's possible as well, but I think this works. There's no way to add stuff while we're in debug mode now. You can't interact with the thing. Oh, shoot. You can backspace? Okay. I did not know that you could backspace. Go into debug mode. Go here. Oh, I kinda in my virtual DOM implementation, I don't think I have captured or synchronized the value inside of input elements. So that might be why, and that also means that's a problem. That's a problem because then we can't go back in time to see what the previous value of that input element was. And also I'm not sure why you are able to backspace. Oh, but not. Oh, maybe it's because that doesn't come out as a key press event. Interesting. So, I think the prevent default may not be a foolproof way to prevent events from firing or from having an user event from having an effect. In the case of inputs, because in the case of input, like the programmer doesn't have to set up a key press handler. Like, they could not do that at all. But still, the user can modify the text in here. So if the user did do that, then that would modify the state of the DOM, and that would mean that's a problem. We don't want it to do that, basically. So perhaps what we need to do instead, maybe block the user's interaction of all the things. How do you block user interaction in the DOM? I'm gonna Google that. I seem to remember there's something event pointer events none or something. I believe maybe I could just apply to all the things. Yeah, pointer events none. Oh my god. Let me try to apply it to body. Pointer events none. So as in you can't. Oh, that is actually true. Holy shit. I can't type into this checkbox. I mean, not checkbox. This input box. I cannot focus into it. It just doesn't work. So maybe I just do that. I just while I go into the debug mode, I don't even need a debug mode flag actually. But anyway, maybe I can use it later. I'm not sure. So I don't need this thing. This thing doesn't work. But what I need to do is I'm going to, when you go into debug mode, which is here, you're gonna take the body, document.body, and you're gonna set its pointer events to none. Let's see if that works. Oh, this is a high level of wizardry. Yeah, you can't interact with this DOM anymore once you turn the pointer events none on. And then when we close the debugger, when we turn off debug mode, then we're gonna undo this thing. What's the default for oh, I can do this too. User select. You can't even select. Oh yeah. Let me try that. Document.body. Got super distracted there. So dial that user select equals none. I was about to. I'll just inherit user select. If you don't know what it's supposed to be, then change it back to inherit. And now, let's see. So at this point, you can do stuff here, but you go into debug mode and, or you can't even select the text. You can't do anything to it whatsoever, but you close it, and now you can do it again. Ah, that is beautiful. You've done it. You've done it. Okay. I think that's good. I'm actually going to remove this debug flag because I don't have a use for it. at the moment, and I'm not gonna clutter up the code with something useless. Okay, so yeah, so if you need to debug, then turn on the debugger. Look at the thing, try to figure out what happened. You done debugging, close the debugger. It goes back to the current state of the program, and then do more stuff. Implement program suspension. Okay, I'm happy with this. Let's see. I'm gonna take a short break and end this stream here. I might do some more later on in the day.